Hi folks, come on in. There's handouts and chairs up here at the front. Hey folks, if you just walked in, there is individual seats with handouts up here at the front. The seats that we added in the back, we were unable to get all those handouts, so there are handouts and seats up here. Here's a seat here, 2 seats here. If you would like to come up here. There's 2 seats over here, 3 seats over here. So come on up. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Sabrina Hauser-Maya, and I am one of the, on the board of directors and kind of one of the original grassroots persons that got all this ruckus started. And we're pretty proud of ourselves. We've been able to push this can down the road for 18 months, and we have at least another 6. And we've done some significant things that we're going to talk about tonight that we hope that maybe we will just be the first to stop this in its tracks, or at least put them in a position to have to do some things that are more protective than is currently required. So we really appreciate you all being here. So let me go ahead and get started in the interest of time. I want to make sure what you have in your hands so you can know what I'm going to put them in order for you so that you know when we get to them, you know what you're looking at. But it should be a handout that looks like this. This is front and back. This is front and back. This kind of shows you the landscape of the quarry and where the crusher is going to be. That is very important, because when we get talking about the distance of the crusher to your homestead, or the distance of the crusher when we start talking about wind direction, this crusher is the only thing the TCEQ is permitting. Nothing else. All the diesel trucks, all the conveyor belts, this crusher is what they are permitting. So that's why I have this here for you all to see. The flip side is a little bit more zoomed out version, and can kind of show you where it is in relationship to people. There are some handouts. There's 3 handouts over here. If you all are a couple, I would ask that you could please share. That would be a big help. Here's something right here. If you're a couple, so if you have 2 sets and are a couple and are willing to give 1 set up, that would be greatly appreciated. That's another set. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Okay, anybody without a set? I've got 4 or 5 in my hand. You've got mine. Okay, so the first thing in your hand should be, it looks like this. This is the quarry. And this backdrop is what we're going to talk about today. Okay, I'm ready. Wait. No. Oh, okay. I want you. Okay. The next one in your hand is going to look like this. We are going to talk about this tonight. because the whole purpose of meeting tonight is to give you all instructions so that you can put your best foot forward to appeal to the administrative law judge at the SOAH hearing. So if you were denied because you're outside the 1 mile radius, if you were denied because you addressed water and traffic and property values and they didn't like those things, if you were denied because you just moved here and didn't know that you had to file a public comment, basically the floodgates are open. You get the right to appeal. This is the one last opportunity. This is it. So tonight is the idea is to teach you how to put together your appeal. You can do it any way you want, but I want to kind of spoon feed you to make it easy for you because this is very complicated. I'm going to try to dummy it down, but that way you have your best opportunity to say to an administrative law judge who is supposedly not bipartisan, that's not the right word. Non-partisan, non-prejudicial, will be making the decision. All right? So you should have this. This is a sample.
So is it an elected judge?
Administrative law judges are employed by the state. They're employed by the State Office of Administrative Hearings. So any office in the state whereby there is the opportunity for mediation, pseudo-civil suits, which is what a SOAH hearing is, they are hired by the state. Okay? The next thing will look like this. This is going to say quarterly windrows overlays. We're going to go into detail about how this works. Now, Don back here is I know that some of you are spending some time with him. He is the one that helped develop this and give you all some really good ideas about how do you prove from the point of the crusher to your homestead, at what time of year does the wind travel, and it's going to pick up this dust, and it's going to travel and kind of just dump it all over your patio and your pool and your livestock and your car and your plants. So we're going to talk about this. There's two other things in your hands. This is the myths document. This is the first document that we put out. If you have not read it, feel free to do so. It is also on the website. So I'm not going to spend much more time. Okay, Lizzie. Ready? So, the basis for tonight is to really highlight why only 11 people, 7 households, were named to be affected parties at the TCEQ Commissioners hearing on the 12th of December. The first thing was, if you were outside the 1 mile radius from that crusher, if you were to draw a semicircle of a 1 mile radius from the crusher, which is what they did, you were not included. We're going to talk about that as an arbitrary and capricious measurement. When I called the OPIC, which is the Office of Public Interest Counsel, they are the ones representing the citizens in behalf of us, and TCEQ, I said, how can they do that? And they said, Sabrina, it is a long historical context and a matter of custom. And I said, really? You mean I have to prove, the onus is to me to prove by law that they are doing something wrong, but they can just draw an arbitrary mile radius and not have to defend it by fact? So, when we go through the information tonight, I'm giving you a slew of ways to bring up that it must be defined by fact of law. They cannot ask us as citizens to defend by fact of law, and they can't follow it. So 1 mile radius. So that is less than 1% of the people that live within 5 miles. 11 people, 7 households. There's over 12,000 residents, 6,000 households, give or take, in 5 miles. Okay, Lizzie? So this is what the beautiful place looks like now. Keep going. We know that it's going to be an imminent threat. Keep going. And what we are hearing is that it's a done deal. And we get emails and Facebook, things like that all day long. Well, why should I worry? It's a done deal. Obviously, your presence here tonight leads you to believe it is not a done deal, and we certainly appreciate it. And if we thought that it was a done deal, we would have folded up tent a long time ago. This is not a done deal. Okay, Liz. So where are we now? As I mentioned, on December 12th, TCEQ Commissioners decided that they would refer this case to a SOAH judge, or an ALJ. They also decided which issues are going to be reviewed. They make that decision. They referred 19 issues. This is the third case I have been in fighting TCEQ for one permit or another. The other two had 2 and 5. This has 19. Big. Okay. As I mentioned, they did, however, fail to consider anybody outside the 1 mile radius. That's arbitrary. I call it capricious. OPIC was the only one that gave us 2 miles. Including a 2 mile radius, it only expanded it to approximately 25 households and 35 people. And I said to OPIC, well, how did you pick that? Well, it's just something we've always done. Got it. So, 11 unique persons, 7 households, less than 1% of the 12,000 residents that live 5 miles within this thing. All right, Lizzie. True groups were named affected parties, and we're going to talk about this in just a minute. Now, once you get bogged about groups, you can also file as groups. When we got this process started, we formed 2 groups, Friends of Dry Comal Creek, which is a former group that fought TCEQ over a wastewater treatment plant, and then we established Stop 3009 Quarry. We joined them together. That group is being represented by an environmental law attorney. There is no membership fee. You don't have to be a member of Fight Facebook, but we're going to talk about why that group is going to be very important. Because even if you are not named an affected party, you can become a participant in the group and be represented. So we're going to talk about that in just a second. The other group is Heritage, Spring Branch Heritage, POA, 8 households. They told me they are going to quote-unquote align with the Friends of Dry Comal Creek. Alignment is a word that the SOAH judge will use. And we're going to talk about what that means. But they are basically saying, when you come to court, are you being represented as Heritage Oaks by yourselves? Or are you going to be subsumed or aligned with Friends of Dry Comal Creek? Make sense? All right, thanks. Go ahead. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, who's eligible to speak? Everyone. Every single person. If you were, however, named, which you do know who was named for affected parties, we do want you there for moral support, but you do not need to speak. Most of us were denied because we exceeded the 1 mile radius. So arbitrary, capricious, there's no law, code, custom, data, they just pick it. So the TCEQ and the applicant used a 1 mile radius marker, OPIC used 2. If you moved the area after February 27th of last year and did not make a public comment because you didn't know anything about it, you were also excluded. So, over the years, the legislature has been very highly supported, financially and otherwise, by the aggregate industry, and what they have been doing with the laws on the books is slowly taking away the rights of the citizens. This has happened in 2015, that if you didn't make a public comment, you didn't get the opportunity to go to a contested case. regardless, and there's nothing in the law to consider extenuating circumstances. I moved here after. So if you moved here afterwards, you have the right and the opportunity to appeal at that time. And one of the suggestions that I'm going to show you is, when you go to appeal, take your first utility bill, take your first Spectrum or DirecTV and say, I wasn't even living here, and I'm affected for these reasons. If you didn't file a contested case hearing, if you didn't file a reply brief, you have the right to make an appeal to be named an affected party at this hearing. So, don't walk out this door and think that I don't have the right. Every one of you in this room has it. So don't forego the opportunity. Okay, now, let me instruct you about issues don't bother bringing up. There may be a couple things that could happen. You're testifying, and it is a testifying. You are sworn in and asked questions by the administrative law judge. She or he may at the beginning say, don't bother bringing up water, don't bother bringing up noise, night skies, blasting, seismic. Don't bother it, because it is not germane to the permit. Now, everyone in this room thinks that's the most idiotic thing that we've ever heard, but the way the laws are currently written, those issues, those cascading events, injurious events that we call them, are excluded. So, very quickly, you can see here in bold, those are the issues that don't even bother bringing up, whether it's suitable for a rock quarry, whether the noise and light are going to affect the neighborhood, whether the plant is going to affect our property values, whether it's going to create a nuisance, it's going to affect traffic and our road infrastructure. Don't even go there, because he or she may say, you cannot even bring those up, or you'll get interrupted in the middle of your testimony and you'll say, sir or madam, you cannot discuss those things. So don't even go there. There's another slide, Nancy. Here's something else. Oh, we should have an environmental impact study. Well, yes, we should, but not required. So don't even worry about bringing these things up. Now, when you see issue 87, 30, 90, in the response to comments, these are the exact issues that were identified in response to comments by the TCEQ ED that are not germane to the permit. So if you wondered where I got these, it's on our website. You can locate them. That I just pulled them right off of the response to comments from the executive director. So bottom line, you're going to have to focus on 19 key issues that I'm getting ready to show you. I'm not going to read all of these. But this slideshow will be on the website so that you can go download it. Here's the issues that are germane and that have been referred to SOAH. So any of these issues you can grab onto and personalize and make it fit for you and your family. So whether it negatively affect human health, well-being, sensitive subgroups, whether the cumulative impacts of neighboring operations were taken into consideration, whether the operating hours of the rock crusher will have no adverse impacts on human health, welfare, and environment. Go ahead, here's some more. Quality air modeling. Now, that is a very complicated subject. Don't worry about it. We have a science team, we have an attorney, and we have experts. That is very hard. You need to pick one or two of these. Focus on how it is germane to you personally. All right? Okay, go ahead. Emissions from maintenance startup. Most of these are emissions, limitations, air dispersion modeling. You guys don't need to worry about site-specific monitoring. That's the very technical piece that if you're an engineer and want to dive into it, be my guest, but you don't really need to do that, okay? So, I say that all of us are affected for the next 80 years because in Vulcan's literature, that's the proposal for this quarry, 80 years. So, everyone in their seats tonight are here fighting for future generations. So I'm gonna be pushing up daisies in 80 years. But I certainly hate to see this hill country destroyed in that fashion. Okay, Liz? So, a couple things Vulcan and TCEQ claim will not occur in operating this permit. Okay. So, big thing is the dust particles. It's a long story what the particulate matter means, but 10 is a size, 2.5 is a size. And TCEQ says, okay, this crusher is going to be operating 24 hours a day, and all the large dust particles settle within 400 feet. Yeah, right. And we don't need fence line monitoring because the smaller particles are going to settle within, the other way, 40 yards and 400 feet. So, all of that settles. We don't have to worry about it. There's no cumulative effects measurements going on for carcinogenic dust in Comal County. The reason why is that there's no monitors here. Absolutely no, not one PM10 or PM2.5 air monitor. So that's like saying, how can you say that there's not going to be any effect when you can't monitor the current baseline? It makes no sense. Comal County alone has over 20 cement batch and quarries. I just read in the newspaper last Friday that there's a new cement batch plant being proposed off of Wald Road. TCEQ, air permit, brand new. So the applicant's poor compliance history. We could spend hours going through this, but we have somebody that has dogged this. And it's quite scary that a good neighbor would allow certain things to occur and not take ownership. Okay, Lizzie? So, just to give you an idea of some quarries in Comal County, the ones in green are older. They've been here for a while. The ones in red, less than 10 years old. There's more red quarries and cement batch plants than there are green in the last 10 years. Okay, Lizzie? I know you guys have seen these things. They're fun to look at, but sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words, and it's always really nice to show people what we are anticipating. So this is just an idea of what that pit is going to be looking like. Okay. Now, the reason I show this was inside somebody's home next to a Vulcan Quarry across 1604. They had a huge, significant event. Her 4-year-old ends up coming down with lung plugs and now has permanent lung plugs due to silicosis. This is what they were living in. Now, this is her home. What you see here is called a tape press. So what the quarry did is they came in and they laid tape onto something to lift the particles up and then take it to a lab to find out what's in it. Silica, fly ash, all sorts of stuff. And this is what her home was covered with. And now her child, who's now 9, probably has 80% lung capacity. So when people say you were inferring that the sky is falling, I am. I really am. Okay, Lizzie. This is what her car looked like. This is what her plants looked like. This dust settles on the plants and it burns them. It's a chemical burn. So if your kids or your animals are outside and it gets on their skin, it's an irritant. Okay. Here's other claims. There's no active air monitors, therefore we don't need fence line monitoring. And the closest location that was operational probably 2 years ago was SOAH. That has been shut down. The current application does not take into consideration prevailing winds or meteorological data suited to measure actual impacts to the quarries. And that's what I'm going to show you how to do tonight. In Comal County, 2002, we were named as kind of a hot area for excessive tons per year for PM 2.5. And I'm going to tell you what 2.5 is in a minute. Excessive. That's 2002. The most current research, we figured this out last week, shows that between 2002 and 2014, we went from 600 tons a year to 900 tons a year. And it's not being measured, nor reported. And the quarries don't have to report it. Okay, Lizzie. So, this is what I want to show you. Just real close. Here's the Vulcan materials right here. Here's Martin Marietta, Rontech C-Mix, Dean Word, Capital Aggregate, Hanson, Asphalt Inc., Anderson, Columbia. So there are air monitors, I didn't know this until I got into it, that measure this PM10, PM 2.5. Those are the things you need to be concerned about. And so, look how close some of these are. Here's Bulverde Elementary, 13 miles, but for ozone only. Here's Camp Bullis, 28 miles, ozone and meteorological. Oh, this is Camp Bullis, sorry, 35 miles here. That's Fair Oaks Ranch. Right here, Selma, 13 miles. It's been shut off. Here's another one by the airport. Ozone and meteorological. So what I'm telling you is that there is no way that they can propose that there's not going to be damage to the environment or to the health of humans if they can't measure it. All right, go ahead. Here's the hotbeds that we were talking about. Comal County right here, stone quarrying. See that dark blue? 65 to 95 tons a year of county emissions. That's above the EPA standard. That's why this is scary. Here's cement manufacturing, a little less. But you couple all of this together with diesel and ozone, you've got a perfect storm. Okay, listen. So here's the health effects. When I say PM, I'm talking about particulate matter, and there's two sizes. The largest is going to be 10, the smallest is 2.5. Those are the only ones you need to be concerned with. However, according to the World Health Organization and the EPA, exposure associated with these two types of particles can have serious negative effects. They are easily carried by wind currents and remain airborne for many, many months and many miles. They're invisible to the naked eye, but you inhale them. This PM10, remember what TCEQ and Vulcan said? Oh, it'll settle out in 40 yards. They can travel 30 miles. Remember what they said about TN 2.5? Oh, it's going to settle out in 400 feet. Hundreds of miles. Okay, so here's an idea of what this stuff looks like. Here's kind of what a human hair looks like. Here's beach sand. PM10 is like dust, pollen, and mold. Here it is in comparison to a human hair. See how small that is? Here's 2.5 in comparison to a human hair. So that visual is very helpful to tell you that you will not see these, but you will be inhaling them. They will go through your bloodstream, they will go through your lungs. And that's why this stuff is so dangerous. Okay, Liz. So here's some health effects regarding PM10 2.5. Here's the source I want you to be here of, right here, this mining and quarrying, stone quarrying. They're suspended for many miles. Damage to lungs and the respiratory system, that's pretty obvious. Absorbed directly into the bloodstream. And then, notwithstanding that you're walking around or gardening or taking your dog for a walk, deposited on soils and plants and in the water. Okay. Here's the impact on the health of your body. So this is just reiterating, as you breathe it in, there's breathing problems, respiratory problems, coughing, and those people that already may have compromised immune systems, for whatever reason, are going to be more severely affected quicker. Does that make sense? So if you have a compromised lung capacity, for whatever reason, if you have an immune system disorder, for whatever reason, breathing this stuff in is not going to help control or manage the symptoms that you may already be dealing with. On the website, there are 2 white papers written by one of our members. He is a PhD in pathology. This man just reeks the smart. I wish you were here tonight. He's a character. But he has written some white papers for us regarding the health effects, and most recently where Comal County stands in regards to the volume of this fugitive dust already circulating in the air, and we have not even added Vulcan, and there's a new cement batch plant permit going in on Wall Road. So it's quite amazing. So these are on the website. Okay, go ahead. So what's next? The whole reason that you all are here tonight is so that we can give you the most information to make the best case for yourselves on March 6th. We just found this out this week. You will be getting a notice in the mail. March 6th, they will hold a SOAH preliminary hearing. It's at the main courthouse, Comal County at 9 a.m. on Main Street. Get there early so you can get a seat. Secondarily, if you want to speak, you will be required to sign in. So, get down there early. There's a coffee shop across the street. We are talking about setting up a mimosa bar.
I'll be there.
So, you will be receiving the notice in the mail. So when you see it, this is what it's going to say. Okay. So at this hearing, this is what happens. The administrative law judge will be on in the middle. Vulcan will be on one side. TCEQ will be on one side, and OPIC will be on the other. They're going to be lined up. And
What is open?
OPIC is the Office of Public Interest Counsel. They are the group assigned to represent the citizens.
They're not our attorney.
They're not our attorney, but they are assigned to represent the citizens as an arm of TCEQ. So there's an OPIC attorney assigned to us. And I talk to him every day. So, in order for you to be considered at this as an affected party, you must be present. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. I talked to him today because several people said I'm going to be out of town on a job. He said they could send somebody to be their representative, but you better have something legal, such as a notarized affidavit, assigning this person to be your representative of that day. But the gal that I was talking to, I said, I think you need to cancel your trip. You must be there. There is no choice. Here's kind of some easy These are kinds of things that they may be asking you. This is what we're going to go through today. So don't worry about the details of what this means. I'm going to walk you through about how to defend these exact questions. All right? So let's work on the details of today. So I want you to pull out your template. Thank you. It looks like this. This is a completed sample template. This is on the website in a Word document. So all you have to do is go pull it up, fill in your information. If you don't want to use this, don't worry about it. This is just to make it so simple for you. So what is very important is that your name, your address, your phone number, and the applicant's name and permit number have got to be at the top. So it is very clear that when TCEQ gets back to the office and there's tons of papers, they know what they're dealing with. Insert your name that you are making a request to be granted a confected party status, and then we're going to go into the reasons why. So remember I told you earlier that the first primary reason that most of us were eliminated is because of the 1 mile radius. We exceeded the 1 mile from the crusher. On our website is instructions, and the link is here. You can go on to the website. It automatically puts you at the crusher. You right click, it says measure distance, and drag it to where your homestead is. Advance it just a little bit more. Keep going. Look at that. On our website, and the address is here. It automatically goes here. You right click, it says measure distance. You drag it to your homestead. Okay? Yes, I see a hand in the back.
When you say you measure to your homestead, do you pick the nearest point of your property or your residence?
Residence, where are you living?
I did both. I did both. I did to right to my front door, and I did it to the very corner of my property. So I did both.
Let me tell you why I'm instructing you to do your home. A person here, not here, but a person who applied for contested case, his homestead was just a stone's throw from the 1 mile radius, but it included land in his fence line. You know what? They denied him because his homestead was outside the 1 mile radius. Can you believe it? So, they use homestead as meaningful that it's going to impact you. Not that it's going to impact you outside, but it's to your homestead. So, I use this as an example here. You click on this, measure to distance, you drag it. So, disregard this. That's if you drove it. What you're looking for, see this number right here? It says 1 mile. As a fact, this person was denied. So I think when they saw the volume of people appealing, I think it's very clear that there was some problems. So this poor lady is going to have to go appeal, but she's within the 1 mile. So if you are over here, or over here, Village Oaks, Copper Ridge, Oak Village North, down in here.
But that 1 mile point, that just marks 1 mile on the line. The total distance is down there at the bottom right-hand corner.
Here, well, I should have erased this. Sorry, disregard that. Because I accidentally dragged it. This is the number right here. No?
I use that on a regular basis. All that does is mark the 1 mile point on the line.
That's 1.5 miles.
Okay. Oh, I did not know that. Okay, thank you. That makes a good point. I appreciate that. All right, so what he's saying is this marks the 1 mile marker. This is the mark here. So for a little more than a half a mile as the crow flies, this person was not included as an affected party. This person is right across the street. When we show you how the wind blows, right at her front door. Okay? Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, go ahead. Go back, I'm sorry. Go back. Go back. Okay. Now, we're going to talk about in just a minute how the air traverses your property and that particulate matter. We're going to show you how to do that. All right? And that is on this sample as well. So if you turn the page,
Keep going.
look at page 3. Look at page 3, you'll see a box. Is this handout? Yeah, go to page 3, Sue. You'll see a box. It looks like little sunshines, and you're going to see that arrow traveling from the crusher up to the homestead. Those little orange, green, yellow markers are how the wind blows during a period of time. And we're going to show you how to read this. But basically, this woman's house is to the northeast of the crusher. Look at the winds coming from the south. Those winds come up. She lives here. Those winds during a period of time are coming, traversing the crusher up to her house. So when we talk about how the wind traverses in the air to be deposited on your home, that's one of the things we're going to help you with to show how to do this. I'm trying to dummy this down. I know it looks very complicated, and we will take as much time tonight as you need to explain it to you, or if you need to call myself or some others of us, we'll be happy to help you with this, okay? We want you to feel comfortable with this. But you really don't have to explain very much of this. A picture tells it all. And then in this, I've just stated my home is 1.28 miles, a direct line of the prevailing winds. You don't have to get into the details of any of it. Don't worry about that. You are just trying to prove that those winds are going to come up, pick up the dust from the crusher, and they're going to travel. Make sense? I see deer in the headlights like, oh, this is going to be way too complicated. Okay. Lizzie, can you go back real quick? Keep going back. Okay, keep going back. All right. The third thing is you've got to personalize this. Remember we showed you the issues that the SOAH can only consider? Those are the only ones that you can personalize. So I took an example, list 2 or 3, and give a detailed description of how that's going to impact you personally. If you have a compromised immune system with something, if you raise cows or rabbits, ride horses, there is something out there that you can pick and address how this was going to affect you personally. All right? Okay, go ahead. So the template looks like this. Everything that's in trolling, we recommend that you keep. If it doesn't fit for you, feel free to take it out. But I've given you language and cited specific laws deliberately so that you know what we're talking about and that the ALJ knows what we're talking about. So it goes to giving them a sense that you have credibility in defending your rights. Okay, go ahead. We've also talked about this. Now, statement 2, this is this rosebud we just showed you on page 3. with the winds traveling. Okay. Okay, hold on, let me just show you something that's very interesting. Do not worry about where these are placed. I want to just give you a picture of how the wind travels. In January, right here, 8.5 miles per hour, 33% of the time. So if this is the center of the crusher right here, it's traveling an average of 8.5 miles, 33% of the time for January. Did I hear something? No? Here's January, 8.5 miles, 67% of the time. Is that making sense? Does this kind of give you an overview of what we're talking about? Different times a year, your home is going to be affected depending on where you live from the crusher. Here's April. You can see the shift. Here's July. 7.6 miles per hour, 100% of the time. So I think they're going to be hard pressed to say that this dust cannot be picked up when it's blowing 8 miles an hour. And others really pay attention to the wind. At 8 miles an hour isn't very much, but it can pick up this fine, fine dust. And then finally October. See how it kind of switches around? Okay, so we're going to talk about how to do this. All right? The final thing, this is in your handout, page 4. This is me making up a personalized issue. I made this up. But I did it to show you how you can take the issue, that it will negatively affect human health, impact sensitive subgroups, physical property, and I just made this up. So this is an example of what you need to, how you need to write. And it doesn't have to be this long. I tend to be a long-winded writer. It doesn't have to be this long. If you are a cogent, succinct writer and you can do it in 3 sentences, do it. Now, the other thing on your handout, I want to make you aware of is on page 4, and it's highlighted in blue. I did this for those of you who may not have been here or lived here during the public commenting period of February 27th last year. So if you were ruled out because you were not here and didn't make a public comment, use this language as an example that for you to be ruled out because you did not live here, unacceptable. Take an electric bill, phone bill, take something with your address on it. Especially if you're within the 5-mile radius. All right, makes sense how to do that? Okay. So what happens at the SOAH hearing? You've got to be present to speak. There is no way around it. As I mentioned, you've got to make sure that you're present or you assign an agent or representative and make sure you have some way of legally showing either an affidavit or notarize that they are been given permission to represent you at that given time. You'll have to sign up to speak and you will be sworn in. So this is almost like a civil trial. You're going to have the opportunity to tell your story, and that's the reason this is so important. Here is your story. Don't get up there and try to wing it. You've got to spend a little time and a little effort. They may ask you some questions. It is very important that you can speak to this in a personalized, passionate way, but do not take out your frustrations about Vulcan or TCEQ or anybody else on the ALJ. Just tell your story. Yes?
Will
Got
there
it.
be,
Is there a time limit?
I am not aware of a time limit. Now, if there's a room like this plus some, they may institute a time limit. But it's not like all the others that we have, you come up to a podium and they give you 3 minutes and it's clocking down. No, this is sworn in, you're put in a chair, and you're asked questions. So they may institute, we just don't know. Yes, sir?
so the group has an attorney, you said?
Yes, sir.
So typically, what I'm familiar with is there'd actually be a coaching period with an attorney prior to the hearing where people who wanted to speak would actually have a conversation with the attorney on the do's and don'ts. What-
Let me talk, I think that's a good idea. I mean, the coaching piece was designed for tonight. Let me talk with the attorney about it. His name is David Frederick. He is an Austin environmental attorney. He's been doing this for 20 or 30 years. He has never been on the industry side. And that's one of the things when we were vetting attorneys, when we vetted, did both advocacy groups like us and the industry, and I said, how can you do that? So let me talk with him about that. The idea behind this was to give you all the information tonight for coaching. Let me ask him about that, and I think we can put it on Facebook and put it out in our email. I think he is going to be there because the group, those two groups have been given or approved for about 10 issues specifically. He will be addressing those. Okay? Do I see another hand raised anywhere? Yes?
If we didn't make a deadline and we don't have any excuse other than not paying attention.
Don't say that.
Not, make up, we were out of town, maybe I was out.
So you don't have to offer any reason. Don't go in there and say, I'm sorry, and ask for mea culpa. I am here to defend my rights to be named an affected party, and here are the reasons. Here's my distance, here's the wind that's gonna come over my property, and oh, by the way, I take care of my sick mother-in-law who has COPD. You do not have to offer your excuse if they ask.
You have to tell me true.
Just say, I'm sorry I missed it. That's all you need to say. Just, you don't need to go into long detail. That help? Okay, I saw another hand somewhere. Yes, sir. Yes, Wendell.
Sabrina, the rock crusher itself is designated as portable.
Right.
Will that rock crusher, and this is a huge question
Mhm.
because we have a moving mile, be moved as the quarry works its way south?
I wish I had a crystal ball. It can be.
Okay,
If they do, they have to reapply for a permit to move it, and we go through all this stuff again.
it will require a permit to move.
That's correct.
Will it shut it down?
No,
What
no,
kind
it
of,
won't shut it down.
what kind of success rate has there been on groups like this?
Well, I think it depends what, how you define success. Here's part of the problem, is we're pushing Titanic up Mount Everest. TCEQ and the regs under which they operate are not written to protect the citizens. Therefore, the onus of proof is now on us versus the applicant. We're going to do everything in our power, legally, scientifically, and with experts. And then let the cards fall where they may. I pray every night and every morning and just say, God, let us be the first.
Amen.
And that's kind of, sometimes all of us have been fighting this, we kind of all have to kind of pick each other up because you kind of get tired of fighting this and going, good gosh, this is a done deal. without a doubt that it will not happen. I cannot say that, and I won't, because it could happen, but it's not gonna happen without a fight. Yes, ma'am, yes, sir.
So, just a quick question, I'm kind of new to this. We just
Welcome.
moved to the area.
There you are, there's an example right there.
So, my understanding of the TCEQ method by which this goes is there is a period of mediation prior to a contested hearing. My question is, did we actually attempt mediation prior to getting to this?
No, wasn't offered,
Okay. That's what I thought.
wasn't offered. That is true, and one of the TCEQ fights I was in, they asked to go to mediation, but that's because the applicant asked to go to mediation. Because the investors were getting tired of money being spent and the project not moving forward. But that is true, but that was an offer. Okay, any other questions? Yes, sir.
One more. Can we go or ask the judge to put Vulcan in arbitration, which is mandatory?
We aren't there yet. We've got to go through the SOAH process. This process is defined by TCEQ. The timeframes are all defined by TCEQ. Arbitration is on down the road. Okay, go ahead. The ALJ will make a decision as to whether you're going to be named an affected party. So whatever happens is everybody gets up, makes their testimony, and once that is done, they will sit down and they will tell you right then and there whether you're named an affected party. You will know when you walk out that door, which is nice. You don't have to wait 45 days for a letter in the mail. So, if yes, you've got two opportunities or some decisions to make. They're going to ask you who you want to align with. Remember I talked about alignment? There's a couple things that you can do here. Alignment has to do with either you as an individual or you joining a group to represent you. Don't worry about the legal piece of that just yet. So they will ask you, who are you aligning with? If you want to be aligned with yourself, that is fine. If you want to align loosely as an organization, say, I'm just making up Copper Ridge residents, that is fine. Or you can choose to align with Friends of Dry Comal Creek and Stop 3009. You have some decisions to make. Go ahead. So, if you align with an individual, you can either represent yourself or yourself with legal counsel. I will tell you right now, do not go into this without legal counsel. Do not. Okay? Notwithstanding that it's expensive, but Vulcan does this for a living. They're bullies. So, somewhere you're going to have legal representation as a loosely formed group with legal counsel. Or you can align with Stop 399 or Friends of Dry Comal Creek, who already has legal counsel. He has been hired for over 18 months. We've been working with this over 18 months. You can align with us. Okay. So, at SOAH, you're going to know right then and there whether you're an affected party. You have to make a choice of who you're going to align with. 3-6 pulls the trigger for 180 days. A decision must be made in 180 days. That change was made in 2015 legislation. In those 180 days, it's going to move very quick, and this is what happens right here. So probably first 3.5, 4 months, this is what's going to happen. Discovery, request for admission, expert witness testimony, depositions, all of this is going to happen. This is what our attorney is going to do. After all of that is said and done, the ALJ takes it, sifts through all the information, and will render a decision. That decision then goes to the TCEQ Commissioners and is heard in Austin 6 months from now. Huh?
On the 6th of March, 6 months from now.
Yeah, 6 months from March 6th, excuse me. Because the commissioners will then make an action. The commissioners will either say, we agree, we're going to deny this permit, or we agree and don't agree, we'll grant this permit, but we want these things to happen. Or they'll just say, we don't believe you, we don't trust you, we're moving forward. We've seen that. Yes, John?
I don't understand what form the ALJ's decision will take. Will he decide on the overall issue of the permit, or will
Yes.
he decide on multiple small issues?
The 19 issues are the issues that can sway the decision one way or another. So they may lump 2 or 3 of them and say, you know what, the fact that the commissioner said that the cumulative effects in the area were a concern, I'm going to throw that out. It's immaterial. Oh, but by the way, we do have information scientifically that shows that the air modeling that they did was inaccurate. So she may say, hey, you need to go back and redo this. Or I'm going to deny your permit based on failure to provide proper information.
So
So
it'll be a denial or
it could be,
an either or type of thing?
it could be a full denial, full approval, or something in the middle. And those 19 issues are what drive the importance level. Okay? All right, go ahead. So finally, and we're going to talk some questions about the air modeling, the air dispersal, the wind road. But all of this takes money, guys. If you've ever had to hire an attorney, you know how expensive they are. So part of our appeal tonight is if you wish to align with Dry Comal Creek, we're going to need legal support. There's just no way to get around it. So you can do this 2 ways. You can write a check to us tonight, write it to GEAA. They are a fiscal agent. That way the contribution is tax deductible. You can go online. And then we're going to have a fundraising event at Casa Avalon, Mr. Ron Bigby, who owns it right over here. And there's going to be a dinner and a silent and a live auction. That's going to be another way we're going to raise money. But this is going to take a financial commitment. And I'm not talking $20 here and $20 there, guys. We're looking at about $150,000. We have $25,000 in the bank. So, I do not want to belabor the point, but it's going to be very important that you all know that we're going to take this as far as we can go. Everybody that has worked tirelessly on this has put in, I don't know how many, 50,000 man hours, and they're a lot of their own money. So, we just believe in the cause, and we believe that we need to do some things to help you all take care of this property, take care of your property and your health and the land that we have. Okay, so I am open for questions. Yes, ma'am.
On that map with the big red section that says where the quarry is, can y'all put a dot where the crusher is? Because that will help me know.
Is there a latitude and longitude?
Yes,
I mean, if somebody, I know they can't do it right this second, but,
it is on the website.
okay.
In your, if you go to the website, the link is right here where to go. That'll give you the latitude and the longitude. Right there. Okay, any other questions? Yes, in the back. Yeah.
The White Ranch, did they acquire more property, just south of their property?
Did they acquire more property?
Yeah, before they sold, because when, I draw for a living and I do maps. And when I took this map that you have there and I outlined it to the White Ranch, it exceeded their parameters. So I'm assuming that they bought property prior, maybe Mr. White bought it and then sold it in conjunction with this.
I have no idea. The perimeter that you see now is what we pulled off the Comal appraisal district. So,
You may be talking about the fence.
the fence,
The fence is not the entirety of the property.
Yeah,
We did acquire additional property beyond the fence. We go, 3,000 miles, all the way to the top of the hill, huge oak tree. It's hard to describe it, but that's the back boundary. It goes
It goes
way
beyond
back.
that.
okay, I saw another hand in the back. Yes, sir.
Well, two things. If people up front have a question, if you could repeat it so we can hear it, that'd be helpful.
Yes, I will do so.
The second thing is not, it's pretty much just a statement. It seems to me, the information you give us here today, this is not a fair fight.
No,
They've eliminated everything that we actually have our concerns about.
Correct.
The air, the water, and everything else. So given the fact we're pushing that Titanic up the hill, we may not be successful, what happens afterwards? My question is, can we start putting information together now that says, I wanna know whose pockets are being lined. I wanna know who else is lined with us here. I wanna know who's in TCEQ. I wanna know when I can vote them out of office. I'll read it even worse. When this happens, everybody here has to understand, we have a voice of we the people.
Yep.
And can say something here. And these people who are doing this to us, and making this thing happen, have to understand there are consequences.
yes,
And if they're happy where they're at, and they're getting good jobs because they let this kind of stuff happen,
Yeah.
and these people move in after we've already been here. Different story if you move into a neighborhood
Exactly.
where they exist.
exactly.
We were here, they weren't, so this is the way it's working, that's what it's like.
Very good point.
But people have to make, and we have to start letting them know now, that there will be consequences if they don't help us. Because TCEQ, like you said, isn't there for us,
No,
it's there for big companies.
that's correct.
And that's not because we pay their salary.
I'm so appreciative that you said that. Did you all hear that for the most part? For the most part? We do have somebody in our group that is now going to start taking over the legislative / he's running and ducking. You can't do that, Mike. Come up here. We do have someone, as you can imagine, our bench strength is 0. So this is a piece that we have been lacking. And you are exactly right. The only way this is going to change is that we have to go to our local elected representatives, and you go again and again and again. We need to go walk the halls of our legislators. And we're going to start working on that after the SOAH hearing. We need to go walk the halls of Biederman and Campbell. We need to walk the halls of commissioners who made no decision to make a decision.
Why do we have to wait till it's over?
We can do it now.
Can I talk?
So, yeah.
You gonna let me talk? Can you, she doesn't like me to talk.
Don't
Can
let
you
her
hear me
get started.
okay?
You need to use it.
Oh, really? My wife says I'm a human megaphone, so I thought I'd just try it without the mic, so. To answer your question, we've been working this since last August 2017, when we first started this. And I will tell you, my opinion, when we started this, we found out about it, we had maybe a 2% chance we could do something. Didn't know what that was, but we could do something. But we probably was not going to be able to stop it. My opinion today, with all the scientists, engineers, and everybody else that have given thousands of hours, thousands of dollars, I say we have a better than 50-50 chance to either stop it or slow it down today. I can't go into any more of it because of the folks that are working and stuff.
That's our legal fight.
That's the legal fight. But to answer your question in the back, yes, sir, I'm aligning myself with Hill Country Alliance, and that's part of a group that's trying to, for lack of a better word, consolidate a whole bunch of our groups together. Because throughout the state, there's over 115 groups battling TCEQ and all this aggregate stuff. And I'm just real quick, just to give you an example, and Sabrina said this before, this is an unfair fight. Back in 2005, up until 2005, we had air quality monitors at all the quarries. Then in 2005, TCEQ was sued by the aggregate industry because the EPA standards on air monitoring wasn't adequate. Basically what happened, and I'll cut to the chase on that, TCEQ sided with industry and they got rid of the air monitoring for all the aggregate industries, for all the quarries, for all the concrete plants. Basically what that meant was the quarries, the aggregate industry didn't have to anymore spend a whole lot of their money on, take the profits out for whatever they had to do to clean up the air. TCEQ likewise didn't have to spend the money on more monitors and more personnel to make sure that the aggregate industry was in compliance. So that was the beginning of the end for our protection. And every couple of years it's gone through that. Like in 2016, and I'm not going to go through all these, I'm just going to give you this one. In 2016, TCEQ wanted to change the way the notices went out. You had the public had, they had the aggregate industry or the applicant had to put out a notice to the public that they were going to do this, and then after so much time they had to put out another notice. Well, the aggregate industry said, what are we doing this for? This is redundant. Well, TCEQ agreed, and they said, well, let's see if we can change the law. So they changed it so you didn't have to do the second notice anymore. There's a video on YouTube where a past TACA, that's the Texas Aggregate and Concrete Association, this is on YouTube, where he boasted that TCEQ invited us to come up to Austin and rewrite this law. That's what we're up against. So, in my little part of it, I'm going to try to see if we can get with Hill Country Alliance and get some other folks from the other groups, basically aligned and coordinated, so we can do this stuff. We can go up to Austin and say, we're going to sit at your doorstep until you listen to us. Those kinds of things. But I will tell you that the folks here that have been working this tirelessly, we're not doing it just for them, we're doing it for all of us and for my kids, my grandkids, and my great-grandkids, and all the years. And there's more to it than just this air. Where they're going to put this thing is right over 2 aquifer systems that provide water for people up in Bell County, which is up around Boston, all the way down to Uvalde County. So kind of think about that. I mean, this is bigger than a breadbasket. So we can use your support, trust me. Thank you.
If any of you are interested or have an inclination to help on the legislative legal side, come see him. Yes, sir.
Don't elected officials have to file campaign reports,
We,
contributions?
the elected officials, yes, you can go out there and look who has accepted monies from who. You can.
What about appointed officials?
No.
These guys are appointed.
The TCEQ commissioners are appointed, and that does need to change. They're appointed by the current governor. That's exactly right. Change somewhere. Yes, sir. Right back there now.
Yes, ma'am. Since there are no more sensors out there accumulating data, which plays to the quarry, since they don't have anything to defend, is it cost prohibitive to contract somebody to take detectors out there and accumulate data for us?
Well, as a matter of fact, our science team has been doing that.
I went and bought a purple air monitor.
There's purple air monitors that you can buy.
Yeah, and I put it up on my house, and we've been getting data since we put it in August, March.
And it'll store the data for you so
Store the
that
data.
you can go back and.
Those data?
Well, it's a redundant system, and you can fight for it, is kind of the way I look at it. I mean, it's better than not having anything.
Would this hearing be an appropriate time and place to present those data?
The hearing is not the place to make requests for mitigation or anything like that. It's solely to decide whether or not you're going to be an affected party or not.
The main purpose of this hearing is coming up is for y'all to become an affected
Party.
party. Because the more people we have as affected party, it's the
It's a numbers game.
bigger impact we're going to make on this industry. It's kind of like him saying, you know, the only way we're going to get this changed is through legislation. Well, that's true, and you need a lot of people to get legislation changed to walk the halls of Congress. Well, we need a lot of people in that room to say, hey, look, this is how many people that are being affected by this. And we need you to be an affected party because that's strength in numbers.
Right.
So once we get that and the SOAH judge renders their decision one way or the other, that's when we get into things like mitigation, regulation, remediation, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And we've already been working on what I call the wish list. And it's got some pretty substantial regulations that if this goes through, that we want in place. And air monitoring is at the very top of that gum list.
Yes, sir. I'll get you in just a second.
So, a business associate of mine, who was the head engineer for Vulcan up until 5 years ago, I was talking about this. He says Vulcan knows every way to find anything that you can pull.
We know that.
Yeah.
Okay, but he said, I didn't tell you this, but the only way Vulcan has ever been affected and challenged on anything they've done, he's the one who put up these quarries, is quality of life. If you argue quality of life, period, you have the best and the only chance to make an impact.
Yeah. Well, that issue number 2, that, you know, air quality affecting quality of life, susceptible subgroups, that issue of quality of life, absolutely.
That is the one that you have to.
And you're right. And you have to fight though with scientific data that says you are using air modeling from 2 quarries that have nothing to do with our area. You use 1604 and a quarry in Midlothian. How can you make a correlation to this quarry? How? So we have been collecting air quality data. Yes. And you, sir? I'll get you.
The question I have is, on the form for the affected parties, do we mail that in?
No.
Or you bring it with you?
Bring it with you. It is basically your storybook. They may ask you for a copy. You might show up with 1 or 2, and they may ask you for a copy. But the design is to help you build your storybook so that you're not flying off the seat of your pants. And some people can do that really well, but I would not recommend going in there and flying off the seat of your pants. Yes, sir.
Will they hear every person that signs?
They will hear every person that signs up. Absolutely. That's why we need butts in seats. Excuse my French. But the more people, that is why we're doing this, is we've got to have twice or 3 times as many people in that room.
Because right now we have 7 stations.
We have 7.
Well, you've got 11 affected parties and 7 households.
7 households, 11 affected parties. Yes, ma'am. Been very patient.
I heard that the plan on 1604 and Comal was closed.
We had a truck with lights went off. The question is whether or not the 1604 plant is closed. That plant has been around for many, many years. It's probably kind of moving towards its ability to produce. Well, guess where they're coming? Here. The other thing you need to understand, this is not long and involved, but recently San Antonio was put in non-attainment for ozone. I know you don't know what that means, but basically that means is San Antonio has to get their act together to get the ozone levels lowered. That means anything air permit wise going into San Antonio, the standards just tripled. So why would a quarry go into San Antonio? They're coming out to the county. No monitors, no local control. They're heading out here, guys. I'm telling you. This is going to be quarry mecca if we don't stand up for this. This is not just about Vulcan. This is about the aggressiveness by which they are moving in. Yes, sir, in the back.
You thought about endangered species? We live in Utopia for a while, there's a big line from there, warbler bird, is probably here also, that's an endangered species, you might check on.
We have been working on endangered species, but it has not been an issue identified by TCEQ as a problem. So we're not even going to spend our time or effort. Yes, sir.
I'm a little confused, maybe you can sort of help me out with this. The number of affected party, the number in the affected party, how does that have a bearing on this process? Because whether we're 1,000 people or 2 people, it's all gonna boil down to the permit and the science and engineering in that permit.
Mm-hmm. It's a numbers game.
But again, how does that affect it?
Well, I think a couple of ways about that. I mean, you are correct in that assertion. However, I think there's something about messaging, not only for Vulcan, but for all these other aggregate companies coming in, that 1,000 people showed up to ask for it to be an affected party. I understand the permit may go through. I understand.
1,000 people showing up at TCEQ is not gonna affect the board of directors of Vulcan headquartered in Birmingham, Alabama.
No, it's not.
An effect in numbers will be when 1,000 of us show up at the president of Vulcan's home. It's something
I'll join you. Get on a bus and do it. It's a dilemma. I don't have an
We need to
effect.
spend the resources on not expanding the number, but focusing on the science that's gonna kill the permit.
We've got that. But I need the numbers for the money to pay for it.
So I'll piggyback what Milan said. I was not an affected party at first. I'm her neighbor. I live half a football field from her. I appealed and I got affected. The reason I'm bringing that up is if I just laid down, turned around and said, okay, I'm gonna let Vulcan win, then I wouldn't have become affected party. So that is why we're telling you, don't do that. This is what Vulcan wants. They want us to say, oh, it's a done deal, let's walk away. Those days are over. We have to be citizens, stand up for our rights and for our families and for our health. So you being in those seats and you saying, I want to be an affected party, I'm tired of this BS, that's what we need.
Okay, yes, sir?
How did they determine the affected parties? Whoever was closest to the quarry?
TCEQ and the applicant made an arbitrary decision that the only persons that would be named affected parties were in a 1 mile radius.
Well, I live right across the street where it's going in, and there was somebody by the gate down close to 399, in a white car in the area this morning.
Yeah, I saw that this morning, that little white car, and
Yeah.
VW is what it was.
Yeah.
I don't know what it
Yeah, it was
was.
Volkswagen.
Yeah, Vulcan is kind of, they've got their own PR machine, and they were telling people that they would be turning dirt over in August.
They can't.
What year?
Last year, excuse me. So we know, you just have to kind of take the naysayer stuff and say, talk to the hand. All right, somebody else had their hand up over here.
Well, aren't there national EPA laws? I mean, the fact that they're not monitored,
Yeah.
that's unconscionable.
Well,
I mean,
here's the thing. Here's what happens. Quick lesson. Texas developed TCEQ to be their EPA proxy. Many states do not have this. EPA oversees them. TCEQ is the proxy for EPA. And therefore, they are able to put up a fight when it comes to enforcing or complying with new EPA rules and saying, and they get Abbott to sign a letter to say we shouldn't have to follow this. Oh yeah. So it puts, yep. So it puts it into the court system forever. So it puts it on a terminal hold. All right, any other questions? I want you to talk to the people's time. Yes, sir.
Is there any movement to have Comal County Commissioners increase the requirements for?
Good luck with that.
Okay, yes,
That's why they're not up in Hayes County. They're tighter controls.
correct. Well, there's a couple things. Number one, Comal County Commissioners have made the decision not to, purposely made the decision not to engage. In Bernie, Kendall, much different. The rules of the county still exist, but they are taking some abilities that they do have and exercising them. Our county is not.
I think that's enough said.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that seems like a good place to take 1,000 people to their house.
We would love that. Okay, any other questions germane to what we talked about tonight?
Doctor.
Yes, Dr. Higgins.
Just a follow-up on what she said. So I think in 2000, you're gonna get me going here. 2015, the EPA passed new guidelines for sulfur dioxide and nitrous oxide. The TCEQ said, no, your data is insufficient, you don't have the whatever, blah, 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 blah. And I don't, and to this day, I'm trying to figure out whether they implemented the new guidelines. They have not.
They have not.
They have not. It's, and we talk about the Comal County Commissioners. Yeah, I've written letters to.
Come on. This is Dr. Higgins. Come here. He's such a nice guy.
To everybody and their brother in the state. The legislature, I just got another email from Donna Campbell. So she passed, or she is in the process of trying to pass legislation for quarries. They not be built within 880 yards of a homestead, because the law now is 440.
It's only cement batch
Oh,
plants, not
well, but still, 440 yards, 880 yards, it's a joke. You're talking about, she's an ER physician who lives in New Braunfels and had to really get tested before she would even respond to me the first time. And then she sent me this letter, it's like, oh yeah, I'm sure the TCEQ is gonna do their job, blah, 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 blah. And then, when I found out about the EPA and TCEQ not meeting their guidelines, I sent letters to Greg Abbott, to Donna Campbell, to Wiedemann, and I even sent a letter to Ted Cruz. I know this is kind of out of your jurisdiction, but I'm really concerned about this agency. They've had, Vulcan has had multiple infractions where they've committed violations, and the TCEQ has done nothing. Any of them. So you talk about your legislatures and everything. There was about 100 of us that went to the Comal County Commissioners Court that day. And then when they saw how many people were there, and we were gonna be like number 20 on the agenda. And then when they saw how many people, thank God, they moved us up. And the clock goes on 3 minutes, okay? So I can tell you, I contacted every one of those commissioners months before that meeting. And I contacted a second one twice, and I got, well, you know, I had a death in the family, blah, 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 blah. And I told them in front of the court, I said, none of you responded to me, none. I raised concerns, you didn't do nothing. And they're trying to say it's out of their control, and it's actually in their control. If you read the law, they're responsible for our health and welfare, to make sure that things are implemented to protect us. They say it's out of their control. It's Campbell and Wiedemann, and then they say, no, it's the governor and the TCEQ, and the governor says, no, it's them. It's like, so I finally wrote Abbott about 3-4 months ago. So who's lying? You say one thing, they say another thing. Clearly, one of you is lying. So it is so frustrating. I mean, the only person that's ever showed any like he's going to help is the mayor of New Braunfels. who actually called me by phone, and we've spoken several times. But the way that property is lined out, it's outside their city
ETJ.
limits.
Yeah.
So he really has no control over that. But I mean, everyone, Bear County Medical Society, Texas Medical Association, I mean, everybody. The Citizen Valley High School, it's like, nobody wants to get involved.
Yeah.
It's, everybody wants to sit back and, well, we can't do anything.
Is it in the EJ extraterritorial or zonable bird?
A small portion, southern part, very small, yes. And we've been to them multiple times, asking them to kind of push on that a little bit.
I'm concerned about natural bridge caverns.
Yeah.
There's caves on that property. What happens if they start blowing up dynamite? I tell you, if 200 people are in the natural bridge and it gets collapsed on them, I guarantee you'll get everybody's attention then. But why do we want to wait till something like that? I mean, it's crazy. But, and if people have taken campaign funds, Campbell, Abbott, from Vulcan, oh, for sure, yep. Yep. So when I wrote the letters last month, I said, I know you've taken campaign funds, so I hope you listen to me as a citizen and not Vulcan as a company. And then Campbell's letters, suppose that this past election, she didn't take any money.
Not from Vulcan, but she took over
Right.
$60,000 from Hunter Industries in Taka. You know who Hunter Industries is? Okay, so Vulcan may not be on the list this year, but everybody else is. Okay.
The other thing that TCEQ is not concerned about is water, right? This is their fault. So I have a device implanted in my well that the attorney aquifer people put in, and they had to redo it because it wasn't long enough, where I can monitor my well 24/7. And I have a very deep well, but I'm concerned some wells are gonna dry up or get contaminated from all that stuff from that plant. But, you know, that's kind of out of their jurisdiction. They're just worried about air quality. But water quality is just as important.
Yes, sir.
That's a great question. They're putting this quarry right over the Gulf recharge.
Yep.
And most of us out here get our water off Trinity, the Trinity which is deeper.
Yep.
They're gonna be pulling from that.
Yep.
And so my question is that I understand that TCEQ doesn't deal with that. Who does, and do they have to get a permit for that? Because water's a different animal altogether.
Well, they will have to get a permit from the new Comal Guadalupe groundwater district. Oh, yeah, Comal Trinity Ground, whatever their name is. They will have to get a permit.
So is that another?
But
avenue
I,
for pursuit?
I don't know if there will be any limitations placed on it. They'll have to meter it, and
They'll
they'll get
meter it
some,
and pay some money for it.
pay some money for it, but, you've got to understand how much water these people are
No.
going to need on a daily basis, because the only way they suppress dust is what? Water.
No, there's two ways.
Well, their primary is
They
water.
use chemicals.
Yes, they can use chemicals, but
Which will go into the evidence.
that's correct.
Or the Trinity, which is right there also. So the Trinity aquifer has a new board, I guess, the end of 2017, they got established.
That's the Comal Trinity ground.
All right, so they're still making their laws and regulations and so forth, but they're very conservative, at least the two individuals that I've talked to. In fact, they're the ones that put that on my well, because they're looking for somebody to install that. And they want to get about 6 or 8 other people. I think they've done 4 now so far.
Volunteer.
Come meet with Kenneth if you're.
Well,
if you're
I'll give you the gentleman's name and you can give him a call. And I told them I'd pay for it, but they did all the installation and everything, and they're doing the monitoring.
I'm at 964 feet, I think.
You're in Cow Creek.
Yeah, we're not.
I'm just across Highway 46. So I'm one of the 7.
Yeah, you're one of the 7.
Yeah, I mean, nobody cares. We're the only ones that should care, and we need to care because the rest of them, they don't give a damn.
Did you have a question?
Now, okay, your well is what, 900 and some odd feet?
I think I'm about, mine, I think I'm about 1,100.
was on, of course, I guess I've been here forever. Our ranch has been we've ranched our ranch for 150 years plus. And we are adjacent to the peak of the White Ranch. And it will be a disaster for our point because we raise cattle to try to make a living. All of us have to have jobs outside because we can't make a living on the ranch. Comal County, Verde, everybody wants ranchers out. It's a fighting battle for us every day. And caves, yes, we have some caves, and that could be very disastrous because we have several big caves.
We're working on the caving.
Yeah, Jack Oliver,
Yeah,
I'm sure he's here.
Yeah.
I have information on caves on the ranch that I personally have been in. And they're huge, huge. We don't know that they might go
We need to
to.
wrap up.
Yeah, there's a lady who was at the last
Yeah.
meeting, remember? And she lives 4 miles from a quarry. And when they blast, the glasses in her cupboards rattle, 4 miles away.
Okay. We're gonna need to wrap up because we have to clean this building up and put all the chairs back. So, let me say 2 things to you real quick in parting. What I would suggest to you all is take this document and get these put on transparencies. Overlay them onto a map where the quarry sits. You can use that handout I gave you. Put it into a transparency form and overlay it, and then track it to your home. So that you can see what time of year your wind is going to be affecting you. If any of you have any questions about how to do this, you can reach us at stop3009 Quarry, Vulcan Quarry @gmail. Or I'll be happy to give you my personal Gmail account and phone number. But we want to make sure that you have every resource available to make this work. Okay? Stop 3009 Vulcan Quarry @gmail.com.
All this information is on the
It
website.
will be on the website. I will be sending out an email blast with all this information so you can link yourself to the website. But do not hesitate to call any of us so we can help you. Dawn back there can talk to you how to overlay this on the property and talk about the wind data. So, get cracking because it's going to take much longer than you ever think it will. It just takes a long time. All right, I want to tell you all thank you so much for coming out tonight. We appreciate you. We know it's a lot of hard work, but